If Excel keeps crashing, freezing, or closing without warning, there's a good chance an add-in is the real cause. The tricky part is that Excel often looks guilty, while the add-in is the one that's unstable. In the next few minutes, you'll learn a reliable way to identify the exact add-in that's breaking Excel, whether it's a COM add-in, an Office add-in, or something that loads at startup. We'll use a simple isolation process so you don't have to guess. You'll also learn what to record while testing, so you can prove the culprit to IT or a vendor. And we'll cover the common traps, like add-ins that re-enable themselves or crashes that only happen with certain files. The goal is practical. Get Excel stable again and keep the add-in you actually need. Start with the mindset that this is debugging, not random clicking. One change at a time, and you'll find it fast. Next step. Before you disable anything, it helps to know what you're hunting. Excel can load add-ins through a few different pathways. COM add-ins are installed on the Windows side and can integrate deeply into Excel. They can add buttons, intercept events, and sometimes crash Excel if they misbehave. Office add-ins are usually web-based and run in a task pane, but they can still trigger issues, especially if they hang or conflict with policies. Then there are classic Excel add-ins, like XLA or XLAM files, which load from folders or from the add-ins list. On top of that, Excel can load startup files automatically, like workbooks placed in Excel Start. The key takeaway is this: you need a checklist of all possible load points. Otherwise, you disable one add-in and assume you're done, while Excel is still loading something else behind the scenes. Once you map the load points, troubleshooting becomes a controlled process. Next step. Now, let's define what crash means because it changes how you test. A hard crash is Excel closing instantly, sometimes with a Windows error. A soft crash is Excel freezing, not responding, or getting stuck on opening or saving. Some add-in failures only happen when you do a specific action, like refreshing data, opening a particular workbook, or clicking a custom ribbon button. Others show up after Excel has been open for a while because of memory leaks or background timers. So your first job is to write down a simple reproduction path. For example, open Excel, open file X, click refresh, then Excel dies. Keep it short and repeatable. This becomes your test script. Without that, you'll disable an add-in, do different actions each time, and you won't know what actually fixed it. A repeatable trigger is your best tool. Next step. The fastest first test is Excel Safe Mode. Safe Mode starts Excel with minimal features and typically prevents most add-ins from loading. If Excel is stable in Safe Mode, that strongly suggests an add-in, startup file, or customization is involved. If it still crashes in Safe Mode, you may be dealing with a corrupted installation, a bad graphics driver interaction, or a damaged profile or workbook. Safe Mode isn't the final answer, but it's a powerful fork in the road. Your goal is to compare behavior. Same file, same steps, normal mode versus safe mode. Also pay attention to what changes. Does the crash disappear completely or just take longer? That difference can hint at a background add-in that loads later. Once you confirm safe mode is stable, you're ready for systematic isolation, and that's where most people skip steps and lose time. Next step. Next, isolate COM add-ins first, because they're a common crash source. COM add-ins run with high privilege inside the Excel process, and a single buggy one can take Excel down. The method is simple. Disable all COM add-ins, restart Excel, then run your test script. If the crash is gone, you re-enable them one at a time until the crash returns. That last one is your prime suspect. If you have many add-ins, you can speed this up with a half-split approach. Enable half, test, then narrow down. Keep notes. Which add-ins were enabled, the exact version if you can find it, and whether the crash was immediate or delayed. Also watch for add-ins that don't show up clearly by name, like ones installed by PDF tools, meeting software, or security products. Those are often overlooked and surprisingly disruptive. Next step. Office add-ins are the next category. These are often managed through an account or organization settings, and they can behave differently from COM add-ins. Even though they're usually web-based, they still interact with Excel through the Office framework, and a stuck add-in can cause Excel to hang or crash under certain conditions. The same isolation logic applies. Turn off Office add-ins, restart Excel, and rerun your test script. One complication is that some Office add-ins are available, but not always active. So you want to test the exact scenario where the crash occurs, like opening a workbook that automatically launches an add-in task pane. Also pay attention to sign-in state. If the crash only happens when you're signed in, or only when you're offline, that's a strong clue that an Office add-in is timing out or failing authentication. Capture that detail for later. Next step. Now let's cover classic Excel add-ins and startup files, because they can mimic random crashes. Excel can load XLA or XLAM add-ins from a configured add-ins list, and it can also auto-open files from startup locations. If a startup workbook contains volatile formulas, broken links, or event macros, Excel can become unstable right after launch. The isolation approach is again straightforward. Temporarily remove or rename startup files and disable any checked Excel add-ins. Restart Excel each time, because many of these only load at startup. If you're in a managed environment, there may also be network-based startup locations, and those can introduce delays or timeouts that look like crashes. If the crash happens during Excel launch, this area is especially important. The key is to separate Excel as broken from Excel as loading something broken. Once you stop the auto-load, stability often returns immediately. Next step. Some crashes only happen with certain workbooks, and that can still be add-in related. Here's why. Add-ins often hook into workbook events like open, save, calculate, or refresh. So one file can trigger an add-in pathway that another file never touches. To test this is two files, one that reliably triggers the crash, and a simple blank workbook that doesn't. If Excel only crashes with the problem file, you still isolate add-ins the same way, but you run the test script using that exact file. Also consider file-specific features that add-ins interact with, like Power Query refresh, pivot caches, external connections, or custom XML. If the crash disappears when you copy the data into a new workbook, that suggests corruption or a feature interaction, not necessarily an add-in. But if disabling one add-in makes the same file stable, you've got a clean conclusion. The add-in is reacting badly to something in that workbook. Next step. When you're narrowing down suspects, you need better evidence than "it seems fixed." Start logging your tests. Write down the date, the add-ins enabled, and the exact steps you ran. If Excel shows a recovery prompt, note it. If Windows logs an application error, capture the faulting module name. That module name is often the add-in's DLL, and it's gold for escalation. Also note whether the crash happens immediately or after a delay, because delayed crashes often point to background timers, automatic refresh, or event handlers. If you can reproduce the crash on demand, try it 3 times with the same configuration. That reduces the chance you're chasing coincidence. This is especially important when multiple add-ins are involved, because you might have a conflict, not a single culprit. Good notes let you spot patterns like only crashes when add-in A and add-in B are both enabled. Next step. A common frustration is add-ins that re-enable themselves. This can happen when an organization policy pushes the add-in back, when an installer repairs itself, or when Excel marks an add-in as disabled and then later restores it. Excel also has a concept of disabled items, where it may automatically disable an add-in after a crash, or you may need to manually re-enable it. The practical approach is to make changes in the right place, and then confirm after restart that the add-in state stayed changed. If you're troubleshooting on a work machine, expect that some add-ins are managed centrally, and you may only be able to temporarily disable them. In that case, your goal is still valuable. Identify the exact add-in and provide evidence. Then IT can adjust deployment, update the add-in, or change policy settings. The key is not to fight the system. Document what's managed and what you can control. Next step. Sometimes the culprit isn't a single add-in, but an interaction. 2 add-ins can both be stable alone, yet crash Excel when they're enabled together. This is common when both hook into the ribbon, both monitor workbook events, or both use the same underlying libraries. To detect this, once you find 2 suspects, test them in combinations. A alone, B alone, and A plus B. Keep everything else constant. If only the combination crashes, you found a compatibility issue. The fix might be as simple as updating one add-in, changing load order, or turning off a specific feature inside one add-in. If you're escalating to a vendor, this combination test is extremely useful. because it narrows the bug report to a reproducible conflict. Also be aware of duplicate functionality conflicts, like 2 PDF add-ins, 2 data connectors, or multiple meeting tools. Reducing overlap can dramatically improve stability. Next step. Once you've identified the likely culprit, you have a few practical options besides just uninstalling it. First, check for an update to the add-in, because many crash bugs are version-specific. Second, see if the add-in has settings that reduce its footprint, like disabling auto-refresh, turning off background monitoring, or limiting integration features. Third, consider whether you can replace it with a built-in Excel feature or a safer workflow. If you must keep it, you can sometimes limit when it loads, so it's only enabled when needed. For organizations, the best outcome is a clean escalation, add-in name, version, reproduction steps, and the faulting module from logs. That package makes it much easier for IT or the vendor to act. The goal is stability first, convenience second. Excel is the platform you depend on, and add-ins should earn their place by being reliable. Next step. To wrap this up, here's the simple workflow you can reuse anytime Excel becomes unstable. First, make the crash repeatable with a short test script. Second, use safe mode to confirm whether add-ins are involved. Third, isolate by category. COM add-ins, then Office add-ins, then classic add-ins and startup files. Fourth, re-enable in a controlled way until the crash returns, and log everything so you can prove the cause. Finally, decide on the right fix. Update, reconfigure, replace, or escalate. If you want to keep Excel stable long-term, avoid stacking multiple tools that do the same job, and be cautious with add-ins that hook deeply into Excel. One last thing. If you've dealt with this, I'd like to learn from you. Leave a comment with your experience. Was your culprit a COM add-in or an Office add-in? And if this troubleshooting framework was useful, subscribe for more practical Excel reliability and performance guides. Small tweaks compound into massive performance gains. Subscribe to catch the next workflow optimization.